Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's nice to be together here in the sanctuary at Westchester Reform Temple for our Shabbat Evening Service. I'm Rabbi Daniel Reeser. This is Cantor Amanda Kleinman. We're joined in the leadership of this evening service by Pete Malinverney at the piano, and also are assisted by Edan Waldman, who's helping out with all of our audio and visual needs. We come into our sanctuary this evening in the shadow of a dark week in our country. The terrible tragedy from Uvalde, Texas, left us all unsure what to say and unsure what to do, leaving 21 people dead, 19 of them children. This only 10 days after another shooting occurred in Buffalo, which left 10 dead. And I read that not even all of the victims of the Buffalo shooting had yet been buried when the shooting in Uvalde took place. It's hard to know what to say in a time like this. And in fact, I've actually felt a little bit of dread throughout the week, knowing that I had to stand in front of a microphone in front of a room of people on the Friday afterwards, as if I had something to say that might be inspiring, that might help us to make sense of something as terrible as what we've all experienced this past week. What could anyone possibly say? Just this afternoon, a sixth grader, someone who's 12, said to me something that really spoke to me. She was talking about the beginning of the Passover story, preparing for her bat mitzvah, and she commented on the scene of devastation that opens that story. Before we are dealing with enslavement, before we're dealing with plagues, we deal with a terrible tragedy for children. The Pharaoh orders that all newborn baby boys be thrown in the Nile River. And this 12-year-old reflected that degree of helplessness, babies, unable to swim, unable to do anything for themselves, thrown into the river where you couldn't even try to swim, a newborn, is the kind of helplessness that the children in the school in Uvalde must have felt this past week. It's often been said that a religion is humankind's quest for God, that we're searching for God, trying to make our way to holiness or to spirituality or nirvana or something like that. That in our search for God, we go to the mountaintop or we stand in front of the shrine, that we try to find the right words in prayer that might be heard on high, as if religion is humankind questing for God. Abraham Joshua Heschel, the great 20th century Jewish prophet, said that religion isn't only about humans trying to find God, it's equally about God trying to find us humans. That it's not we who are in need of God, but rather it's God who's in need of us. Heschel meant this in a couple of different ways, that in a world where we have free will and God's powers are circumscribed, God needs us to be God's instruments in the world. God needs us where there is suffering to try and bring a little bit of comfort. Where there is oppression, God needs us to stand up. Where there's violence, God needs us to intervene. Where there's horror, God needs us to lift our voices and shout, no. It's as if God might ask us, do we not see what it is that God sees here on earth? Do we not feel what it is that God feels? Imagine it now from God's perspective, a school, a place where we're supposed to be able to go to learn, to grow, to strive, to imagine the future. That's what education is all about. A school, a place of learning becoming a place of killing. Can we not imagine it from God's perspective? Do we not feel the depth of brokenheartedness that God might feel? The anger that God might feel? The shame that God might feel? To see this humankind that God has created with hopes that we might make the world beautiful, instead to see the scene like we did this past Tuesday. Reflecting on what the sixth grader said this afternoon, it occurred to me that the Passover story really gets underway when God at last hears the cry of the Israelites and decides to act. I know that we've all heard that cry this week. Let's be like God and figure out how best we can act. And one little thing we can each do is check out just the website of every town for gun safety. They have a variety of solutions that we can all engage in together in order to prevent more gun violence from escalating in this country. That's every town for gun safety. Let's not just be in search of God tonight here in this sanctuary. Let's help God who is in search of us. Amen. To help us welcome Shabbat and to bring a little light to a world that's been cast with a dark shadow, we'd like to invite forward Max Harrison, who this weekend will celebrate his bar mitzvah on our bima. Would Max and his parents and sister Lily please come and join us to kindle these lights for Shabbat? We'll turn now in our prayer books to page 142 for the words Shalom Aleichem. Page 138, Lecha Dodi. We'll pray verses 1, 2, 5, and then when we reach verse 9, I'll motion for the congregation to rise and face the doors.
Shabbat
turn to page 146 for our call to prayer.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
150.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chokim u'mishpatim otanu limad shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
On this Memorial Day weekend, where we remember those who laid down their lives in defense of our freedom, which we hold so dear, we turn now to our people's Song of Freedom on page 158, Micha Mocha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
161.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashivenu leshalom. Ve'hamidenu, shomreinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. Hashivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashivenu leshalom. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevi Geula Lifnei v'neihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bagivurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim bechol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
We'll invite you now to take a few moments for private reflection. You might look for words of inspiration in our prayer book or find the words that come from your own heart. You can spend this time either standing or sitting. Shabbat Shalom. One of the great joys of springtime at Westchester Reform Temple is that the clergy office always gets a new visitor who comes and sits with us for a couple of weeks. Every year we welcome a senior at Scarsdale High School to come and be our WRT Senior Options Intern. It's a position that allows the student to see a little bit behind the curtain of what goes on inside of a synagogue, not just at the regular times that you might encounter it, say at a holiday or a life cycle or on Shabbat, but to see what happens sort of in the day-to-day of synagogue life. And this year is no exception. We've been blessed to have with us a senior from the congregation, Ethan Hirsch, as our senior options intern for the past handful of weeks. He'll be with us another 2 weeks. And this evening, Ethan is going to offer our Devar Torah. Now, I sort of felt like when I said the word senior options intern, I felt like I started to see some heads looking around the room, like trying to identify which student in here is a high school senior. The answer is none of them. Ethan, unfortunately, got COVID, and he worked so hard on writing a really beautiful Devar Torah, and then he got COVID, and he couldn't be here to deliver it. But thanks to the wonders of technology and to the wizardry of Idan Waldman, Ethan will still be able to deliver his remarks to us this evening, just not live and in person, only over our video projection screen. So let me now introduce a holograph of Ethan Hirsch to us all now. Ethan Hirsch is the third generation in his family to grow up at Westchester Reform Temple. His grandparents, Sheila and Ira Hirsch, are our congregants. His parents, Ronnie and Jeff Hirsch, are also our congregants. Ronnie notably leads WRT's monthly mitzvah effort, and Ethan himself is the youngest of 3 siblings. His oldest brother, Mark, is a rabbinical student at the Jewish Theological Seminary, and his middle brother, Aaron, has also been really involved in the congregation. He read from the book of Jonah here on our bima this past Yom Kippur. I had the great pleasure of officiating at Ethan's bar mitzvah a few years ago, and as a funny coincidence, the Torah portion that Ethan is delivering a message on tonight is the same one that he delivered a message on his bar mitzvah. So it's interesting to see how his ideas changed from 7th to 12th grade. Ethan participated in our confirmation class in 5780, and for those of you who aren't quick to translate Hebrew years to English years, that's 2020, pandemic year, first pandemic year, a class that showed a lot of heart and showed a lot of resilience in getting to what was a really hard end of their sophomore year. Ethan's also been a participant in our Rabbi's Table program. He'll be a freshman at Cornell this coming fall. As our senior options intern, Ethan has had the opportunity to see what happens in the JLL, in the ECC. He's helped to write a weekly e-blast. He shadowed the clergy, and most importantly, he got to experience Truck Day, the fun day when our preschoolers get to go explore fire trucks and other kind of fun trucks like that. And now it's my pleasure, in a minute, once I get the signal, to welcome a holograph of Ethan Hirsch. Idan, what do I need to know?
I've been the senior.
There we go.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Ethan Hirsch, and I'm a senior at Scarsdale High School. I've been the senior options intern at WRT for the past 4 weeks, so I would like to thank the clergy and staff for this opportunity to do and learn so much here, including letting me speak to you all tonight. I've had my driver's license for just over a year, and the other day, I was thinking back on when I passed my road test. After getting in the car with my temporary license, my driving teacher sped off, broke stop signs, and forgot to signal as he drove me home. I was astonished, as the instructor who taught me the importance of obeying these rules broke them left and right. During this moment, I realized that following rules is easy when someone else is watching, like during a road test, but it's much more difficult when you might not get penalized for breaking them. This week's Torah portion, Behukotai, is all about what happens to the Jewish people whether or not they follow God's commandments. If they observe the commandments, they will be blessed with great material success, such as the early rain Yerech in the autumn, and late rains Malkosh shortly before harvest time in the spring. However, if God's commandments are not followed, the Israelites will experience evil. God, quote, will unsheath the sword against the Israelites, and their, quote, land shall become a desolation and their cities a ruin. Oddly enough, Behukotai was also my bar mitzvah portion. And throughout this writing process, I've been thoroughly entertained by reading through my 7th grade Devar Torah. Throughout my Devar Torah, I focused on how this parsha, at its core, is about consequences for one's actions. The example I gave in my bar mitzvah was about playing the trumpet. I used to puff my cheeks when I played, and I made the case that the consequence of this action was that the sound quality coming from the instrument would be poor. But there's so much more to this parsha to unpack, as my experiences have certainly changed in the past 5 years since my bar mitzvah. Despite the hostility God threatens the Israelites with if they don't follow the commandments, God promises to always look after the Jewish people. Quote, even when they are in the land of their enemies, God will not cast them away, nor will God ever abhor them, to destroy them and to break God's covenant with them. For God, the Eternal, is their God. Adonai promises continued support for the Israelites, as God is omniscient, or all-knowing. God will know if the Israelites follow the commandments, but God will also know who breaks them. These rules are meant to guide the Jewish people, and by strictly enforcing these rules, these people will be kept secure from vice. But what about the rules that can be broken without others knowing? This makes me think back to not only getting driven home after my road test, but also what's in store for me next year. Next year, I'll be heading off to college. And one major element of this transition from high school to college is I won't have someone looking out for me anymore. In high school, not only do my mom and dad look out for me daily, but there are various people at school doing the same for me. My teachers tell me what and when to study. They give me homework and practice for exams. School aides even tell me not to run in the halls or cut the lunch line, not like I would do any of these things anyway. High school is full of rules. In college, however, I won't have so many people looking out for me. I'll still have friends and advisors, but it will be a big change from high school. In a way, that's a good thing. I can have more freedom in various aspects of my life. On the other hand, I'll have to start thinking more about what I will do when nobody is watching. I'll have to continue being a rule follower, even when the repercussions aren't clear. Most importantly, I will have to keep being an honest person by helping others and doing what's right, even when someone else might not see. In 7th grade, I thought this parsha was just as simple as laying out what happens to the Jewish people if they follow or don't follow the commandments. But with my continued Jewish education at WRT, through confirmation, the rabbi's table, and the packing for college programs, I have learned more about the ideas of God's omnipresence and omniscience. I have also learned that some rules, unfortunately, are not so stringently enforced. Signaling at turns or coming to a complete stop at stop signs, for example. This parsha is still about what happens if one breaks the rules, but more specifically, when one knows God is watching. If you follow the commandments when you know God is watching, what will you do when nobody's watching? Are you going to do the right thing because it feels proper, or because you don't want to get punished? Buhukotai is about the forming of one's character and being trained to consistently do the right thing regardless of who's watching. This message can, of course, apply to my road test experience as well as to my transition to college. I hope to always do the right thing, not because of God's omnipresence or omniscience, but because, simply put, it feels right. Shabbat Shalom.
Our thanks to Ethan. Ethan, if you're tuning in this evening, Yasher Koach on your beautiful remarks, and thanks so much for everything you've given this community through your senior options internship and through your family's 3 generations of involvement with the congregation. And see you Monday morning. We'll turn now, both in our prayer books and in our hearts, to prayers for healing. And I'd invite the congregation, if there's anyone who you're praying for this Shabbat who's in need of healing, and if you'd like to share a name aloud with this community, to please be invited to rise in your place and speak their name now. In addition to these names that we've spoken aloud, we as a Westchester Reform Temple community pray this Shabbat for healing for Rachel Rackauer, for Jen Leventhal, Roberta Friedman, Jeffrey Millman, Esther Bat Mechel Varezel, Rachel Brucha, Steve Grodzinski, Sarah Haran, Grace Neidish, Avraham Ben Miriam, Elizabeth Hars, Tony and Gina DeLappa, Matthew Atwood, Gloria Byron, Anthony and Elizabeth Danker, Deborah Kapnick, Nicole Shusi, Neil Glasskull, Leah Greenspan, Masha Batsora, Aviva Tzila Bat Esther Bela, Andrew Goldstein, Ken Master, Chava Batsara, Eliyahu Chaim Ben Fradel, Sheila Fried, Malka Tzipora Bas Rachel, Tamar Bat Malka, Heschel Meir Ben Davida Chana, and other names that we carry with us in our hearts. Our Misha Beirach prayer for healing can be found in our prayer books on page 371. Our concluding prayers begin on page 586. Would the congregation please rise?
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latei gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kimishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. A musical meditation before Kaddish in memory of those innocent lives lost in recent weeks. These words come to us from Psalm 147. Healer of the brokenhearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars, you know who we are.
As we prepare now to recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, I'd ask mourners who are in our midst to please rise and be acknowledged in the following order. If you've laid a loved one to rest within the past 7 days, would you please rise? If you're within the first 30 days of mourning, would you please rise? All those within the first year of mourning, would you please rise? And if this Shabbat marks the yahrzeit, the anniversary of your loved one's death, would you kindly rise? I'd ask the congregation to rise as one in support of the mourners among us and carrying the mourning that we all feel together as a society. We remember first those most recently taken from us: Mickey Burke, father of Howard Burke; Lillian Starr, mother of Ron Starr and Wendy Starr; Gloria Bronstein, mother of Glenn Bronstein, Charles Bronstein, Adam Bronstein, and Wendy Horwitz; Molly Surnow, mother of Ronald Surnow; Larry Simon, father of David Simon; Ginger Smerling, mother of Linda Shapiro; Bruce McVitie, son-in-law of Sue Phillips and husband of Carol Oakes; Andrea Reiner, mother of Randy Kulang. Alexander Wexler, father of Monica Freed. Anita Diamond, grandmother of Eric Rabinowitz. And on their yahrzeit, the anniversary of their death, we remember Jack Alter, Shirley Alter, Charles Bacon, Mira Balber, Edith Graff, Helen Becker, Harold K. Bell, Betty Bronstein, Lillian Brucker, Rose Buckdahl, Minnie Chopper, Warren Chosit, Harry Denker, Marco Fernandez, Wilmore Feinerman, Harold Fisher, Isabel Goldschlag, David Gordon, Murray Gordon, George Hahn, Brent Horney, Sophie Jacobs, Arthur Capel, Tracy Kreisberg, Martin Lapidus, Leonard Levin, Simon J. Leibowitz, Norman Lubin, Evelyn Markowitz, Hope McCauley, Lorraine Medvinsky, Bunny Meyerson, Florence Miller, Michelle Monitz, Anna Polsky, Joseph Resnick, Elizabeth Rosenbaum, Ralph Rosenkrantz, David Schildkraut, Irene Schwartz, Adele Seltzer, Estelle Silver, Herman Silver, Howard Swidler, Arthur Talmadge, Edith Tobin, Lawrence Teicher, Marvin Wadler, John Weber, Sabina Weissman, Saul Weissman, Rose Walensky, Barbara Willis, Nema Zabrotritskaya. And we also remember the victims of the shooting this week in Uvalde, Texas. 19 children and 2 teachers, ranging in age from 8 to 46 years old. If there are any names to add to our commemoration that have not yet been spoken aloud, or any that I've inadvertently mispronounced, I invite you to say them now. The words of the Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 598. We say together, Yit Gadol v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, B'Alma Divrach Hirutei v'Yamlich Malchutei, B'Chayechon uV'Yomechon uV'Chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uV'Yizman Kariv v'Imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Ulamei Almaya, Yitbarach v'Yishtabach v'Yitpa'ar v'Yitromam v'Yitnaseh, V'Yithadar v'Yitaleh v'Yitalal, Shemei D'Kudsha B'Rechu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
We may be seated. A few brief announcements before we conclude. Our celebration of Shabbat doesn't end this evening, but rather continues into tomorrow with Torah study at 9 a.m. and with the bar mitzvah service of Max Harrison at 10 a.m. and of Lily Joseph's at 12:30 p.m. And we also invite you to join us for many upcoming events we have here at WRT. I'll list just 2 of them. Just one of them, I lied. Which is that next Friday night we'll be observing our annual Brotherhood Award presented by the Men of Reform Judaism, as well as the giving of our Kreisberg Award and our Bauman Prize, honoring really devoted learners and service people to our congregation. That's 2 weeks from now, Cantor Kleinman's telling me, because I don't know how to do math. So 2 weeks from now, I hope that you'll join us for our Brotherhood Award, Kreisberg Prize, and Bauman Prize. 2 weeks from now, Friday, June 10th, not next week, Friday, June 3rd. Now that I've sufficiently confused the congregation, we'll make sure to thank our greeter, Mike Rahimi. Mike, here you are. Thank you so much for greeting us on our way in the door. And we'll wish Mazel Tov to the Harrison family, the Josephs family, and also to Paige Maddie, who will celebrate her bat mitzvah on Thursday afternoon of this coming week. As we prepare to go into this holiday weekend, may it not just be a time of relaxing by the pool and enjoying watermelon and maybe wearing red, white, and blue, but let's rather make this Memorial Day the day that its founders intended it to be, a day for reflecting on what this country is all about, what it stands for, and what we need to do in order to help make this country reach its ideals. And so in that spirit, let's turn in our prayer books to conclude to page 680, where we'll offer together the words, God bless America. We need God not only to bless America, but maybe even to help America right now. Let's all do our part. Please rise, page 680. Let's give thanks for all in our life that is sweet.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lemase vereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher lisiyat Mitzrayim, ki vanu vacharta, v'otanu kidasha mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen. And now, before we go and enjoy a little oneg in the lobby, let's give thanks for everything that helps to sustain us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Please join us in the lobby.
That's right. That's right. If you're gonna do it, right? Yep. Yep.